Hey guys, welcome back to the video. In this video, you guys, my spoiler-free review for George Miller's newest movie, 3000 Years of Longing. Dr. Benny encounters a djinn played by Idris Elba who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedom. As a scholar, she doubts his existence, and through the film, he must prove to her that he is real through telling fantastical stories of his past, eventually leading her to make a wish that no one expects. Now, the summary I just read to you guys, the specific part I want to mention is the fact that he must prove to her that he is real, which is the biggest downside of this movie in my opinion. But before we get into that, I want to talk about some of the good parts of this movie because the highs are absolutely awesome. We got to start off talking about the technical aspects because George Miller never misses on the technical end, and this is no different. I think this movie has the same exact cinematographer for Mad Max Fury Road, and this thing is stunning. If you need one reason to go watch this on the biggest screen possible, it's because of the visuals. This movie only cost $60 million, and it's probably the best looking movie of this year. The CGI is fantastic. There's a few shots here and there that don't look the best, but this movie is near perfect visually. The storytelling and the creativity behind all these visuals, it's not just unneeded CG. The stuff that is fully CG or CG heavy, it's all needed to be that way, and everything is just so creative. You're really engulfed into this fantastical world. I do have problems with the fantastical world in terms of just the story itself, and I'll get into that later, but just the CG alone, how creative they were with all of these designs and all these character things, I just absolutely love what they did with the visual storytelling end of this film. Technical aspects also do mean the score and sound design, and they are both phenomenal as well. The score is riveting. I watched this in Dolby and it was shaking the entire theater. It was so well done. There was surround sound. At one point I thought music was playing off of my phone, but it was just in the movie. It was so well integrated and it just felt like you were actually in the movie itself. It didn't feel like you were just spectating something. And it's really difficult for a fantastical movie to do that to me, but I definitely feel like this one did the best job of immersing me, and that also has to do with the sound design. Props to them because this movie on a technical aspect is probably, I'd say, perfect. And the next absolutely awesome thing in this movie is the acting. Tilda Swinton, she is good, but Idris Elba is phenomenal. Probably the best performance of this year, I'd have to say. I think there's a few really great performances, but this one just really sticks out to me. His accent and embodiment of this djinn, there are different time periods, and his chemistry with all of these different actors as he's telling these different stories in the flashbacks. Though I wasn't a fan of the flashbacks, and I'll talk about that later in this video, I do think that Idris Elba's character through all of these things really carried my enjoyment for the movie, because if it was maybe another actor or actress, I feel like maybe I wouldn't have been as engaged within the story. And I feel like here they did a really great job of, again, not only immersing us into the world, but Idris Elba created a character that felt very likable and very understanding, and the entire message, which I'll talk about later in this video, I do think that worked very well with Idris Elba's acting. But honestly, that's all I can really say that was good about this film. Nothing else really did it for me. I want to start off by talking about the story because it kind of sucks. It is overwhelmingly annoying and overdone. The constant flashbacks in the first 3/4 of this movie are to a point where it's irritating. I got out of this movie and instantly made a TikTok and said it had 3,000 years of flashbacks because it was absolutely boring how many flashbacks there were in the first 3/4 of this film. So in the synopsis, again, I did say that obviously the djinn has to go back and prove that he lived through all these different events and that he was a genie for all these different people. And that's a very cool concept on paper, but at the end of the day, when you're just basically watching a djinn interfere in different historical actions and events, it's not that entertaining. But like I said, Idris Elba and the visuals make it slightly more entertaining, and that's why I don't think this movie is like a complete failure. I still think the movie is pretty decent, and I'll give you guys my score at the end of this video, but again, I just think it's like an average, below average film. I just don't think it's anything that crazy, and I was kind of expecting it to be something a little more. And this is where I get into the underlying issue of this whole film, which is the script. Honestly, it felt very, very rushed. It felt like a second draft of a script, to be honest. Nothing was really cohesive, and it really felt like 2 different stories just thrown together. The first like 15-20 minutes of this movie feels like something different, and then the entire middle chunk with all the flashbacks feels like a completely different story, and then the final like 20-30 minutes feels like another completely different story, and not in a good way. A lot of movies, they can be uncohesive, but at the end of the day, they wrap together to make something beautiful and to tell a great message that would only work with that weird storytelling method. But this movie never really does that. The ideologies and messages within this story, I get it. I totally understand what it is, and no spoilers, but it does regard something about fate. And I love that message in movies, and I love when they tackle that, because in movies, you have the creativity to go forward and backward in time. In this movie, yes, it goes back in time a lot, but I feel like they could have done a lot more with this concept. At one point, it was just so drawn out to me, all of the flashbacks and how they were just nailing this message of fate into our head, that I was just like, okay, I'm over the flashbacks. Just show me some cool visuals and I'll enjoy my time here. And that's exactly what happened. But again, it comes down to the script. I feel like this one was rushed. It didn't feel like a final draft of a script. And again, I do think the creativity aspect, how weird and fantastical it got, obviously it wouldn't work with any random script, and this script was tailored to that very, very well. But as an overall story, it doesn't come together well at all. So even going in with no expectations, 3,000 Years of Longing is heavily disappointing. Though it has some of the best visuals of the year, that isn't near enough to save it from the passable script and flashback prominent story. Overall, I'm going to give George Miller's 3,000 Years of Longing a 6.5 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out 3,000 Years of Longing, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.